Do you think education is a privilege or is it a right? Something that everyone should have access to. What is up, everyone? I hope you're doing well. If you don't know me, my name is Ishan, and welcome to the video. Today, I want to talk about privilege, specifically the privileges that I've had in my life and the privileges that I didn't have at certain times in my life. I like to think I've had an interesting journey of ups and downs, not just internally, but even external change, and especially financially. That I had different privileges when I was younger, when I was a teenager, and then moving on from their point on. I'm currently in Dubai, which is absolutely amazing. I feel so grateful and blessed to be able to take a travel trip slash vacation with my parents, and it is a major privilege. This is kind of what sparked some of this video, but really I've been reflecting a lot on my childhood and my younger times that I needed the I needed to talk it out to process it, and in a way I was watching Rhythm and Flow on Netflix. It's like a rap show, whatever. But one of the judges, Tib, he said something about music and how even if sometimes you're unable to connect with your fans through what you're saying, sometimes the most intimate thing that you can do is let them in to the conversation that you're having with yourself. And I think that's really the goal of this particular video and about the four other ones that I'm going to record over the next few days because of the journal reflections that I've had. And it really is one of the most intimate conversations because it's associated with guilt and it's associated with a mix of emotions, positive, but also feeling guilty of having privileges when people in the world don't have that. I feel really blessed to have been born into an Indian family that has strong family values, that my parents have supported me financially when they needed to. For instance, like when I was younger, and even beyond that in my current life as well. And like I said, sometimes I feel really guilty for being privileged because I didn't choose this for myself. It was something that I was born into. And I intend to truly use it to the best of my ability to keep leveling up internally myself and allow myself to become the version of myself that I can continue to meaningfully contribute to this world, and especially for the folks and communities that need it the most. Currently, I feel like I'm making my contribution through science, and I hope that in the future I can put these skills that I'm learning to use to help communities that really need it. I asked a question about education because I feel like my life path is unique because of the education and access to education that I gained over time. I was born in India, New Delhi, and my family was, I would say, middle class, starting off with lower middle class, moving up the ranks a little bit. And my parents had the ability and they wanted me and my sister to have access to education, so they sent us to schools. They sent us to good schools, private schools, where you had to pay a fee every single month for what we're going to study. Although, I mean, we didn't really get to choose what we studied, but that's and the Indian education system is extremely rigorous. There's exams every single week, whether you want to take it or not. You've got to do it. And up until fifth grade, I was a shit student because I was just bored in classes and I didn't really understand the purpose of anything. I was just a kid who was infatuated with brands and showing off because I felt like that's actually what I was surrounded by in terms of the kids, where they came from very privileged and rich families, not even rich, dude, wealthy families that had generational wealth. So they were always dressed up in different brands, and we're talking about all these travel trips and experiences and all that jazz that I thought that if I wanted to fit in with these popular people, then I myself had to, I wanted to have, I should have had similar experiences or similar things, and I would beg, almost like literally beg and guilt trip my parents into buying things, even sometimes lying, which in hindsight, that like I can't believe I've turned into a person who's like the polar opposite of that, where people's perception is not something, it's probably like the last thing on my mind. And this is kind of hard to talk about because I've never really spoken to anyone about this. And I feel guilty because in that moment when I was younger, I didn't realize the privileges that I did have. And I think in starting sixth grade, I started to get a hint that, I was a little different than other kids, that and that I had something in me that was like, yo, there's something off, like you're not, what you're portraying or how you're behaving right now is not really who you are. And I think sixth grade was my turning point where and this was still in India, and I started to, I started to, I, at that time though I was still unconscious about whether I was alive or not, but I have a lot of memories from that time period, like starting on since then, that I understand now that that was the time period that I felt like, okay, things, there's something within me that's wanting me to change. And slowly I started to focus more on school because I did enjoy studying, especially science. Like I enjoyed challenging myself even at that age, that up until fifth grade, I was shit in school because it was boring and I knew I could do it. And I think sixth grade was starting to be that point where I was like, okay, if I can do it, I need to actually show it to myself. And that's why I started putting in more effort. And even then, I was still like a little bit kind of like a degenerate in some ways, where I was like still wanting to just be spending time on like playing games, trying to get like video games and shit, and just be outside with people, like with my friends, playing like cricket in the streets and in the backside of our apartment building. And eighth grade in 2013, 2012, 2013 is really when that turning point came, where I was like, nah, I like school. I like what I like learning, and I want to keep doing that. That I started putting in so much more effort, and it of course showed. I did really good on my exams because I knew it wasn't hard for me. It was just something that I had to put my mind to. And I also had to come to that realization myself, because my parents really tried to instill that education thing within me, but I just didn't understand why. And I think if I had understood why, I like to think if I understood why in that moment, I would have paid more attention to them and what they were trying to tell me. But at the same time, I was just a kid, and I have to give myself that grace. As things turned out in life, that year 2013 also happened to be the time where I moved to the United States. I moved to New York City. Up until that point, I had such privileges in life that I had a good family life. I had some form of a community, good place, like food, shelter, clothing, like everything was taken care of. And then we came to the United States, and everything just like flipped, because we went from being slightly upper middle class to like, I don't know what the, I don't want to say poor, but like kind of around that, because my parents did have some savings, but it wasn't like we could just have whatever. Like we would have to be choosing the bare minimum. Schools were something. We went to public schools here, of course, and I mean the U.S. the education system. I think that's one of the best things, is that we have the access to it. Everyone gets some form of a chance to go to high school and middle school, like these places, for free without having an additional cost. And even then, I wanted to do good in school, and in some way I also needed to do good in school, because now my parents had like uprooted their entire lives and like moved here. And for the first couple months, we actually lived with my grandparents in like a two-bedroom apartment in New York City. And like my sister and I, like we slept on the floor for the first couple months. Like we shared one bathroom within six people, And this is really, I'm not, this is not a pity party or anything. This is really the situation for many immigrants that, probably most, that come to New York City and start like a new life because they wanted better opportunities and access to education for their younger generations. And like, I think I slowly started to internalize the sacrifices that people were making, that I wanted to keep working harder, and I saw my parents and my sister do the same, and my grandparents, that I knew that if, or I think I began understanding then as an eighth grader, literally like a kid, that education was a path forward, and I had to, and I wanted to pay attention in school and do good. This now comes with the caveat that while I understood this in some capacity, I still had this thing within me of wanting to fit in with people, of wanting to be with the popular kids, of wanting to chase external validation in some shape or form. And I continue to do certain things, engage in certain behaviors, do certain activities that I thought would gain me the popularity or the external validation. And a lot of the times, these things, I was doing it from that perspective rather than considering, is this something that I really want to do? Is this person that I really want to be friends with? And to go from having privileges to not having the privileges of even having a car, because our family didn't have a car in New York for the first like 5 6 years that we were there. And of course, you don't even need a car in New York, bro. You can just like take the train and buses everywhere. But in the beginning, it was like we were so hand to mouth and like tight with finances that even when we moved out of our grandparents' apartment and got like another small place nearby, that instead of taking the bus that was like 2.75, like $2.75 for like ticket, we would just walk the way, even regardless of the weather, because we had to save the money. And I think for a kid to go through that, it's really, it's tough. It's extremely tough because it fucks with your psyche. It's like, what can I have in life and what can I not anymore? And it shifts you. It shifts your mindset. It really shifts your personality. And from there on out, dude, ever since I was 13, there hasn't been one summer that I haven't worked. There hasn't been any time where I wasn't doing something extra on the side while I was in school, whether that be co-curriculars, whether that be some form of like an internship or a job. So about for the past 12 years, I've had to do something extra because I understood that in order for me to get into a good college, I would have to get a scholarship. Otherwise, I would go to a city college, some New York school, which would be fine too, because it's really what you make of the college experience. But if you really want to keep climbing up the ladder little by little, you want to aim for better things, and that comes through extra work and extra effort. It requires energy to create something new in your life, and that's exactly why starting new habits is hard, especially when there are things that are good for you. Like I said, anything new that you want in life, you have to create, and it requires a lot of energy. And then from 2013 to 2018ish, about 5 years or so, my parents started to get jobs, started saving up, figured out their paths a little bit, and we were somewhat in a financially stable place. I wouldn't say it was like, oh, we could just spend money on anything, but it was like, okay, we don't have to only eat at home anymore, and not take the bus to save like a couple bucks or something. And to go from a life of having privileges, not having privileges, to back to privileges again, which I also developed in my life through my work as well, and having savings of my own through different jobs and internships. I think sometimes I still feel so guilty, especially like being on this trip. I felt some of that guilt coming back up where I'm like, what did I do to deserve these privileges? Because I I didn't necessarily choose this or work for all of it. And I just wanted to remind myself that, and you hopefully, if you're still with me in this video, that you are allowed to receive the good things in your life. You don't have to feel guilty for enjoying the good things. What's the point of working hard if you don't enjoy the fruits of your labor? And you've endured hard things. You've gone through the path of resistance that had and required you to work damn fucking hard for what you have. Like, you didn't just get here by accident. This wasn't just by chance either. You chose to do the hard things. You deserve the good things that have come into your life as a result of it. And you know the truth, the good things are going to continue to come, because even though you're privileged and even though you have a solid base now, you continue to work hard. You don't just chill out. Like, you're not just fucking around. Like, you're still working hard towards bigger goals and trying to get to another next level. And I think that's the most important part here, is that it's one thing to have privilege and continue to coast through life, which is what a lot of people may do. But it's a completely different thing to have privilege and still continue to work fucking hard and continue to build yourself up and use that privilege to develop your passion and put it to work so you can serve and contribute to this world in a meaningful way. Or at least that's where I am. That's where I am right now. And another reminder that you are worthy of it all. We're inherently worthy as humans by just existing, so we don't have to feel guilty, or we don't have to give in to the feelings of guilt for having privileges. And we should lean into the privileges and generate more abundance for ourselves and for the people around us, using the privileges to keep learning and keep growing and keep leveling up, again, to contribute to this world in a meaningful way that helps people that need it the most. And I haven't always thought this way, so it somehow not it's somehow feels more aligned, or life feels a little bit more aligned now than it did 12 years ago. You don't really need to minimize your struggles, and you don't need to hide your wins either, because you work fucking hard for it, bro. And it's not to brag with other people, because that's what I wanted to do when I was younger, so I could fit in with that popular kid group, because that's what everyone does. It's like, oh, look at my watch, look at my shirt, look at my shoes, etc., etc., whatever. And maybe I hope it doesn't come off that way, but I'm not here trying to brag about my things either. Well, in a way, I'm trying to brag about my work ethic and what I built in here and here, because those are the things that no one can ever take away from me. Even if all the money goes away, I think I would always, I'm like 99.9%, I'm gonna have to say I'm 100% sure that even if everything got taken away, I would build myself back up to here and fucking beyond, because of what I know, because of what I've been through, and I know that I've done it before, that I can do it again. And I think that character development is something, like I said, people can take away your money, your external things, external appearances. You could get canceled on social media and shit, like whatever, even if you have the fame and respect, etc., whatever. All these material things, like, people can take away from you, but what you built internally is something that no one can ever take away. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things in life that we as humans can do, is build ourselves up internally, and that in turn changes our external reality as well. I really have I've transformed I've changed my personal world internally and externally in a way that dude, honestly, like 12 years ago, I never thought this would be possible, and it feels fucking good, because I also know that I wasn't given handouts at different stages in life when it came to my work or academics. No one could have given me a handout I deserved and earned every experience, every research experience, every project, everything that I ever did. And I know the pain of not giving it your 100%, because that's exactly what I did when I was younger, because I had the ability to work hard in school before 6th grade, and I just chose not to. And I remember how, like, it just the discomfort that you feel internally once you have understood your potential in a way that you haven't before. I think your mind just rewires itself and it transforms that everything that I choose to do now, I want to give it my 100% and then some more. I want to see what the limit is and how I can continue to stretch that little by little by little by little. And I think that's another quality that I'm really proud about, that willingness to go beyond what's required or expected. Because you know what? That's the whole point of having the privilege. It's so you can use it to keep fucking growing. And I'm just so proud. I am proud about my willingness to go beyond. There's no bare minimum anymore for you, Ish. You've got to exceed the standards by pushing yourself and learning about yourself in the process. You didn't have to do a PhD. You could have continued to work your job, continue to make 6 figures plus over the next few years. Do that job for 10, 20, 30 years, save up enough money, retire like a normal person. Like, that would just be fine. And yet you chose to take the harder route. You sacrificed that so you can build another skill set and do things that you're more passionate about, so you can give yourself more to this world. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing. That's such a powerful thing that we can do as humans. So continue to feel all the things that you do. Then come back to your true essence, because you're not just your emotions, you're not just your thoughts, you're not just your feelings. You're way beyond that. There's this life force that resides within you that extends way beyond anything that you've ever imagined. And I want you to keep coming back to that. We're about 22 minutes into the video, so if you've stuck with me this far, I appreciate you so much and thank you for tuning in. I hope you got something out of the video. I hope you got a glimpse of my internal conversation with self, and perhaps that gives you some form of a learning that you can take in your life and apply it. If there's anything that this video made you think about, something that you want to ask, something you're curious about, let me know in the comments below. And if you've stuck this far and you're still not subscribed, then bro, what are you doing? Definitely subscribe. You know I'm gonna put out real shit, like always. You just can't plan such videos, bro. I had like 5 things that I wanted to say, and those were mostly just like affirmations, like you're allowed to receive the good things, you've endured hard things, etc., etc. And it turned into this whole spiel that just like naturally came out. And I just feel so grateful and blessed, and I'm filled with a mix of emotions that I hope you can feel a little bit of as well, even though it's through a camera, and even though it's through this video. Thanks for tuning in, truly. Appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video. I love you. Take care.